the Jewish people have their own king, but they will let the Jewish people govern themselves to an extent using their own religious law. So what that means is you need a new kind of leader to come along and interpret the law and figure out how to enforce the law, which is tricky because it's a religious law that you're trying to use to govern a people in its entirety. And so legal scholars come along and they grow and develop their own tradition that we'll get back to in a minute. Well, the Persian thing doesn't last long because Alexander the Great, who's Greek or Macedonian, comes and conquers the Persians, including Jerusalem and the Jewish people in the process. And Alexander's reign is very short-lived, but when he dies, his general Ptolemy takes control of the Jews in Jerusalem. And Ptolemy has the same vision for the world that Alexander did. He wants to Greekify everything. He wants people to speak Greek. He wants Greek philosophy to catch on, Greek culture to catch on. So he's pretty pushy with that, which is off-putting to the Jewish people who really like the idea of having their own kingdom again someday, and being more Greek and less Jewish feels like a step in the wrong direction. Well, give it a little bit of time, and Ptolemy eventually loses control of Judea, Jerusalem, the Jews, etc., to the descendants of another one of his rival generals, a guy named Seleucus. And the Seleucids are even more ambitious in their desire to snuff out the Jewish thing and replace it with Greek culture. Well, by this point, things are really getting tense in Israel, and some of the people start to say, like, we're not going to do these Greek things. And so the leaders, particularly one Greek leader named Antiochus Epiphanes, pushes back. He's like, no, we're going to get rid of the Jewish thing. We're going to take it even as far as me sacrificing a pig on the altar to your God. We're going to take it as far as you having to offer incense or different offerings to gods you don't believe in, or even to me. Well, the Jewish people are pretty bent out of shape, and they all get summoned to an event where they're supposed to do this sacrificing, and a dude volunteers to do it who is Jewish, and some other Jewish guys are like, no, and they kill the Jewish dude who was going to sacrifice, and it sparks this whole big giant rebellion called the Maccabean Rebellion. Long story short, the Jews win this thing, and they reestablish their own kingdom briefly in the 2nd century BC that lasts a ways into the 1st century BC. And this isn't really a restoration of their old kingdom, because it's not the descendants of the great King David, who's the famous Golden Age king of Israel that everybody wanted to see, reestablished, or his line reestablished. But they got something. Well, they also still have a need to make sense of the laws that they're trying to govern their people with. So that's a little bit clumsy. But further, you've got a whole bunch of people after 200 years of Greekicizing Jewish culture who really think that in order to be on the right side of history, we need to be more Greekish. You also have a whole bunch of other people who are hyper-conservative, and they're saying, no, the thing that Israel always got wrong when we got into trouble was that we acted more like everybody else and we didn't act like a unique, set-apart people. It sounds good. And so they argue for these conservative values and a rejection of all of the Greek stuff. Well, it's a culture war. Some people are trying to lean forward, and some people are trying to get back to our roots and really make Israel great again. I'm not trying to take a side here, but if you catch my overtones, it's not that different from a lot of the tensions we feel today. Well, the liberal, legal, philosophical ruling party comes to be known as the Sadducees. They reject a lot of the supernatural teachings of the Old Testament. They don't believe in things like the resurrection of the dead, or miracles, or angels, or spirits, or any of that stuff. They're very, very practical, and they view religion as something that can help provide some guidance socially, that can help steer people morally a little bit, maybe make the world a bit better place. But it's not transformative per se, and it certainly is not overwhelmingly supernatural. The Pharisees, on the other hand, these guys are really into rules, but not